The greatest transfer of wealth in American history is going down right now. 40 million retiring baby boomers in the next 7 years. Currently, the boomers own 51% of all wealth in America, and the millennials own 9%. Their kids don't want the businesses, all the real estate. It's all changing hands over the next 7 years. And who's gonna take advantage of those? It's people that are prepared, people that are educated, people that are in right rooms. They're going to be the ones that win.
The great transfer of wealth. We're expecting the largest transfer of wealth in human history. This is a really morbid idea that I've been hearing about. As the boomers retire or age out of their businesses, they're going to be selling things and handing off homes. This Ann here tells us the story about how her husband's grandmother was expected to leave them about $250,000 in inheritance. However, a majority of that went to her cost of her assisted living. So they ultimately ended up with $2,000, and they said at the end that they were able to redo their dining room windows. As the boomer generation hits their twilight years, the question of what will happen to their money becomes a fascination of sorts. I personally find it depressing that we are hoping that for an entire generation to pass away so we have a chance at making it. Here's another opinion piece. The great wealth transfer is a delusion. The typical boomer is not in a position to leave anybody any money, okay? You already see how they have left society today. I don't see generosity being a marker of them passing on. The median amount a boomer has saved for retirement is $21,000. Well, how much of that are y'all expecting? So to bring it full circle to my last video, the American dream for a lot of young people is to leave America because we can't afford to get a foothold, getting homes, being able to save for our future, being able to pay for our kids' colleges. We can't even pay our own colleges, and we graduated 10 years ago. And it's just a really grim solution to be like, well, the baby boomers are eventually going to pass on. First of all, technology is getting good. We don't know when that's going to happen. And I don't want my parents gone. There's real systemic issues going on here that aren't just let's wait till they die and pass on their businesses, pass on their inheritance. Like, we've got to be able to get it out of the mud somehow before they're gone. I'm going to be starting a series on becoming a digital nomad so you guys can work wherever and take your money where you want to go so you don't feel stuck having to make money and make a lifestyle here in America. If that's your choice, sure. But I feel like everyone deserves the choice to move away from their hometown, their home country. So I'm going to be starting a series. Follow and subscribe to my YouTube.
So if y'all are sitting here wondering why our corporate overlords are going into overtime into the final stages of this whole late stage capitalism, right? It's one simple thing. I mean, it's a lot of things, but it boils and accumulates into one thing, and it's this. There is about to be the thing known as the great transfer of wealth. That's the boomers' transfer of wealth as they move into the final years of their livelihood, right? They're about to transfer almost $84 trillion worth of wealth as far as real estate assets, land, retirements, investments. They're about to transfer that over. It equals to about 2.5 times the total amount of U.S. national debt by the end of 2023. States that Gen X will inherit about 30 trillion, millennials will inherit about 27 trillion, and Gen Z will inherit about 11 trillion. And this is why they're going so hard, because they don't want that to go down to the people. They want to get that because a multitude of things. Somebody, their egos. Somebody wants to become the first trillionaire. Their greed, things like for a bunch of bullshit, not for the people. This could literally wipe out our entire debt and have ample
tons
money
of money
left over.
Tons.
So that national debt that y'all cry and say y'all voted for, that could be wiped out from this transfer of wealth alone. You wouldn't have to tax the rich.
Yep.
None of that. You would just be able to pay this off and keep it moving and let the people inherit their wealth. But no. They're not going to do that. And even say the implications of it. Again, it says one of the major key issues that they're worried about is the transfer could increase inequality as the bulk of the inheritance is expected to go to Americans who are already wealthy. So this is why they're scrambling. This is why they're going into overdrive. This is why it just feels and looks like it's like some goddamn Handmaid's Tale shit. Like, because they're going to suck all of that money, all of that transfer of wealth for themselves. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of this, but this is why. You got about another 10 years before, you're probably going to be moving on to, the last couple of boomers. You know what I'm saying? And they want to ensure that wealth does not go to the people. So they're going to raise these grocery prices. They're going to try to put people into as much debt. They're going to try to suck away as much as they can. So even if you do get some money or some land or some real estate for great grandpop, you'll be in so much fucking debt that you'll have to get rid of it and then transfer it back to their pockets. They don't want you to keep that house in the family. They don't want you to keep that land down, pass it down to your great-great-great-grandkids. They want it all. They want to take it all. So they're not going to forgive those student loans. They're going to keep raising those grocery prices. They want you to keep using those fucking credit cards. They want you to keep taking out those loans to pay for groceries and your rent. And they're going to keep raising it so that way you have to transfer over your inheritance from your family. And I will keep saying until I'm blue in the face, white people, this is your fault, because who do you think in that boomer bracket who has most of that money?
I was just about to say, too, black people are not included in this wealth transfer that they're referring to. So we're going to get to that in the rest of the video.
It ain't us. It ain't us.
It's not. We're not benefiting from that.
Saying.
The same people that say, there's no reason why you should get, this is the reason why reparations matter for this purpose right here. But I'm not going to make this a topic of the video. I'm just saying this is the reason why we're not included in this. We're not included in this great wealth transfer. And I think there's 3 different wealth transfers that people are getting misconstrued. But I'm going to let this play and then we're going to commentary.
One of the biggest transfers in history is taking place under our nose, and we are distracted by everything else in the media. I need you to pay close attention to what is happening to Bitcoin and what is happening to the value of the US dollar. I firmly believe that the US monetary system as we know it is a ticking time bomb, and if you do not have a plan to take your fiat currency, the US dollar, and transfer it to an asset that actually has value like gold, silver, or Bitcoin, real money, you may have a problem. A very common fact, if you have any U.S. history or U.S. monetary history knowledge, is that the U.S. dollar has not been tied to gold since 1971, when President Nixon took us off of the gold standard. Around the time that President Nixon took the U.S. dollar off of the gold standard is also around the time the U.S. dollar became the currency that backed every other global currency. The thought process was, we're going to tie our money to the U.S. dollar because the U.S. dollar is going to be tied to gold. Or at the very least, since we're no longer on the gold standard, it's going to keep up with the amount of gold that is in the gold reserve. The problem with that is that the fiat currency, the US dollar, which actually has no real value except that which we assign it, is no longer tied to the value of real money. And please notice how I am stressing the difference between the word money and currency. Every fiat currency in history, and there have been 6,000 of them total since the beginning of time, have failed. What makes us think that the US dollar is the exception to that? The problem is that our government kept printing more and more and more and more and more currency, so much so that the number of US dollars out in circulation is no longer the equivalent of what is in the gold reserves, if there is a gold reserve. So here's what that means for you and I. Because the government kept printing more and more money, and it caused inflation, as we can all see and agree, and inflation, a degree of it is normal. However, the egregious levels at which the U.S. is printing money is causing the actual value of that money to go down. It's really simple as supply and demand. One of the reasons why gold continues to keep its value and grow in value is because there's a finite amount. As we print more U.S. dollars, the value of a single dollar goes down. Not only that, but prices for things continue to go up. And that's why you, my friend, have to get 7 different side hustles. You have to have 10 income streams. You have to have a full job, a part-time job, as well as a gig on the side.
Yes.
In order to make a living and to live a comfortable life in the U.S.
See what I'm saying?
That's why even though our earnings potential is increasing and a lot of us are making more money than we ever have in history,
right,
the buying power is decreasing over time. And it does not matter how much money you're making if your buying power is not keeping up with how much you're making. I just want everybody to take a moment to take a step back to educate yourself on what's actually happening with our money.
But if you're middle class, you probably pay like $100,000 a year.
So this nurse is explaining just how expensive end-of-life care is, especially for middle-income families. It reminds me of this thing that people have been talking about, the great wealth transfer. Because of course my generation holds about 4.5% of the wealth. 2% of which is Zuckerberg himself. So what people have been saying.
Yo, I just realized what he said. That's crazy for him to own. So millennials really only own 2% of the wealth. Yo.
Is sure.
Wait, let me make
Millennials,
sure
you
I
don't-
didn't.
Just how expensive end-of-life care is, especially for middle-income families. It reminds me of this thing that people have been talking about, the great wealth transfer. Because, of course, my generation holds about 4.5% of the wealth, 2% of which is Zuckerberg
So we own 2.5% of the total wealth. Zuckerberg.
himself. So what people have been saying is, sure, millennials, you don't have shit, but just hold out because the boomer generation is slowly dying, and once they die, that money's going to be passed down to you. The problem with this is that humans are beginning to live longer and longer, and then yes, the end-of-life care is extraordinarily expensive. I have personally watched family members drain their savings accounts and their retirement funds in nursing homes. Even the Biden administration has proposed ways to help subsidize this. You can probably guess how well that's going. So, while it's a nice rosy story to say that, yeah, millennials, just wait your turn, even though your parents didn't have to, don't fall for this crap. There's going to be no wealth transfer.
This video is like 3 years old. This clip in particular.
To get sucked up by the medical industry. Wonder who's going to get that money.
Explain wealth transfer. Good question. I was in an alternative investing before I do what I do today, many years ago, and you forget a lot of people don't understand the term. So let me explain it. If you're looking at money, it's literally when a transfer of sum of money goes to another person, place, or thing. It enhances and changes their lives. Now, you can have great wealth transfer that's also connected to knowledge, information, and that also is transferred down, right, through generation and generation. Grandma's recipe, for example. But when we're talking about wealth transfer now,
Right.
There's also a new thing happening as the old guard is ripped down in time, not tomorrow, but in time. The financial structure will change, and that wealth transfer in time will move back to the people. So we've had the parasites basically that have had it all. Why do they need all that money? And we should have no poverty or lack in the world. So it's going to be removed from their hands, and it will be slowly then put back into the people's hands. So over time, then things like poverty and lack over the years will start to dissipate, and people will actually be able to live quite a nice, balanced, harmonious life. Because money is a tool, plain and simple, a tool. You're not taking it with you. It enhances, right?
Can't take nothing
It can
with
also
you.
be used as a tool for control, manipulation, power, which we've seen in these big parasites that have run the world. So that is going to get transferred through. And people get really triggered when I talk about cryptocurrency, because what they don't understand is actually most of the people, there's always bad people in every section of the world in anything you do. There's no perfect people.
Yeah.
Well, we're all perfect in how we are, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of people that actually are in cryptocurrency and got into it a long time ago, the founders of this. They weren't just all bad people. They're actually very aware people saying, how can we move to something decentralized? Now, gold and silver, I've always said, is the foundation, and that's where you should probably make sure,
Put your money.
just in my humble opinion,
Put your money.
you know, that's your insurance when things are going sideways. Banks are collapsing all over the place. We see it. Like, the economies are rough, and we're going to have to go through it and see how it unfolds. So this is a space, so a lot of people that got into cryptocurrency, it's because
Yes.
they're looking for something different outside of the system. They want to hold their own assets, whatever that might be for them. Everyone's allowed to have their own choice. You don't like it, stay away from it. You're a sovereign being, do what works for you. But this is why we talk about a wealth transfer, because there's been a lot of new money changing hands. But in the end, the world is going to shift where it will, that financial structure will shift back to the people. We have to watch it unfold. We just know if you've gone down enough rabbit holes, you know what's happening. Comment below. I love you guys. Have a great day.
And I don't recommend no one put your money in banks. If you do, put it in a high yield savings account. Do not just put your money in a regular savings account. The bank is making more money off your money than you're making off your own money. There are some, I think a lot of them are online though. I think the highest I've seen was like 5.37% or something like that. Put your money in a high yield savings account. I'm not saying invest in crypto, but learn about it how you would the stock market, right? Because that is the future. I don't care what nobody says. I've made a decent amount of money off of crypto. Don't let people scare you away from the opportunities that they're investing in. These same boomers that said Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, XRP, Doge, they said all of this stuff was a scam, and some of it is. Okay, but it's a market just like the United States stock market. It's the same thing. You just got to learn about it. Get in, get out, find which one is where it's moving, stay on top of the news, right? That's all you really have to do. So I wanted to, the reason I made this video, talking about the great wealth transfer, and I just want to clarify. I think, as I said before, that the wealth transfer means something different to each race. And I'm not making this a race-based video. I'm just saying, when people like him and a few of the other people that are talking about the great wealth transfer, the vast majority of those people that are going to benefit from this are white people, right? Because most of the boomer people from that era have grandkids and families and stuff like that, to where hopefully I'm rooting for you guys. I'm not benefiting from it. I'm not gonna, the black community, as the brother said, right, as he said, we're not gonna benefit from this, right? Our neighborhoods were bombed, redlined. This is the reason why we push for reparations, so we won't get so far left behind, right? And there are a lot of people that are gonna say, oh, well, I don't have grandparents that and I'm not saying money should be put in your hand, right? But I do think it is responsible for the generations that have been here to somewhat look out for the younger generation. I only want y'all to move out the way so I can get it myself. Y'all don't have to hand me anything. Nothing was handed to me, right? But this great wealth transfer is going to benefit America as a whole, but more so white Americans. There's not too many, if not any, black Americans that's going to benefit from this, or immigrants and stuff like that. That's just the foundation of the country, right? It is what it is.
Pass on their businesses, pass on their inheritance.
And that's that right there, right? And I don't blame the younger generation for not wanting to carry on with their father's businesses. People want to live their life. People don't want to be a slave to work. I don't blame them, right? Even if it is successful and they can make money hand over fist, you're still going to be miserable because it's not something you want to do. I love this segment. She went and she broke it down exactly as it should. Always invest in gold and silver. People are always it's not going anywhere, right? Gold and silver is always going to have value. It's had value since the beginning of time. It's going to be here to the end. Gold is on the pearly gates of heaven. It's not going anywhere.
End-of-life care is especially for middle-income families.
And that's the other thing too. But the common thesis that I'm getting from this comment and this guy and people that have left their comments in other videos talking about the fact that, their grandparents are not passing anything down. Listen, I can't speak for that perspective because I've never went through it and never will I experience it or any of my kids. I'm working right now, hopefully, that I can help pass something down. You're talking about the end of life care for a lot of these boomers and how much it costs and da-da-da-da. Okay, number one, they don't have to be in nursing home. That's number one. Right? But on the back end, if they're not, well, a lot of them too, they're in nursing homes, but they still own homes at the same time. So they're not even home. Those same families that are complaining about this can literally do in-home care or have them home health aides. You can hire 3 home health aides and pay less than what you're paying to send them to a nursing home. But people are lazy and they don't want to take care, which is fine. But at the same time too, boomers on the back end, if you want to be taken care of, well, you have to share. You can't hog all the wealth. It's impossible for you to do, and that's what you guys are doing. So the main census of this video was education based, but it's also to show there's a stark difference between what that great wealth transfer means, different kinds of people. For black people, honestly, we just want people to get out of the way and we want an opportunity to make our own. Move out the way. Stop being the gatekeepers of control and not allowing us a chance to make our own. Now, I'm not saying that's just for black people. I'm just speaking about from our experiences. We don't have baby boomer parents and X, Y, and Z that's going to pass down wealth. I just want to know what you guys think of the great wealth transfer and what it means to you. I'm not hating if somebody is a beneficiary of their grandparents handing them a lump sum of money. I think it's irresponsible if you don't know what to do with it, right? But I think that's the goal of most parents and grandparents is to, as I said before, leave this place a little better than when we came in. I don't want my kids, my family to struggle like how I had to, right? And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that they don't. It should be that way all the way down, right? But from what I'm hearing, especially from white Americans, is that that's not happening. You know, that wealth transfer should be happening. It should, and it will, okay? Get a high yield savings account, invest in gold and silver. Invest in gold and silver, high yield savings account. Stop giving and putting your money in places where you can't benefit from it, but other people can. I'm not a financial advisor, guys. I'm not. I'm a kid from the projects, and I've made a pretty penny learning how to play in the market, deal with crypto, knowing how to put my money in certain places. I have a very high credit score for a reason. And as I said before, I'm not a financial guru. You don't have to listen to this at all. Just use basic common sense. Gold and silver have been around since the beginning of time. It's not going anywhere, okay? If you want something safe, play with something safe. That's safe. We can't sit back and wait for a transfer to happen. You have to start forcing certain things. I'm not telling you to go rob a bank. I'm not telling you to go rob a bank. What I'm saying is we have to start planning and doing something now about it instead of just waiting for a lump sum of money to be given to us or an asset to be given to us. And then we don't even have the education behind supporting what to do with that money or asset. So let me know what y'all think. What's your impression of the great wealth transfer? Do you think it should be that way? Or are you feeling kind of like me where you're like, yo, I just want y'all to move out the way so we can make more opportunities for ourselves? Because that's where I'm at. I'm not expecting a lump sum. I'm not getting one. I've never been expected to get one. I don't have anybody above me. It's just me. So do you expect to get a wealth transfer, or do you just want the boomers and people that are in the way to get out the way? That's how I feel. Let me know what y'all think, man. AYO BASTLE TV. Like, hype the video, please. We're on our way up. Thank you. AYO BASTLE TV. Like, comment, share. See y'all in the next one. Peace.